Hey guys, Country Retro Boy here, and welcome to my review an, of another Spongebob game. Now, this time I'm gonna actually review this next Spongebob game. It is, I forgot to mention this. I might do actually two in this video, starting with Spongebob typing and then Adventure. Let's start with Spongebob typing. Spongebob typing start. Spongebob typing's plot is when when the crazy crab gets a contest to see who could do the most typing, and on a computer would win a peanut butter sandwich. And you're probably wondering, how does the game feel? How does the game is? It's a it's a educational it's an educational computer game. That's basically it. You have to type words, and that's pretty much mostly the basic plot of the game. There's bosses. There is grand finale. There is some typing boss battles. There is some boss battles. There's three. There's Squidward, Plankton, and Sandy. Once you defeat each of them, then the game ends with SpongeBob winning the contents, and the game ends with him eating the peanut butter jelly sandwich. And that's how pretty much the game ends. Now, there is some mini games in this game, which, honestly, the mini games were honestly okay. Like, they're not bad. They're not like bad ones. I just don't think they were really good ones I could really recommend. I feel like this game had some things that I didn't really like that much about it. Overall, SpongeBob typing mini games, even the mini games was not that great. Mini games was honestly pretty not good. For instance, each of them requires typing. It is all of them has looks like each of them is basically looks like an old season 1 DVD, season 1 games. Yeah, the activities are even pretty boring, honestly. Each of them, I think the best one I can probably say is Patrick is both. I think also I liked the Glove War 5 ID, and also the Stale Race. It, and also there is some stock music reused from this game that does suck. Then we got the snail race thing, which is pretty much kind of similar to that online snail race game. Which basically these two games are these two PC games. Well, one of them is an online Nickelodeon game. The Great Snail Race was an online game, and there was also a book based off this episode. There is an episode called that as well. This is SpongeBob Typing's mini game called this is also the same as the Great Snail Race episode. The online game called The Great Snail Race is basically also based off that episode as well. To be honest, right now, another mini game was honestly like good. My favorite part.
Great job. I was worried Patrick was getting cold without his clothes. Play Magnifico. Welcome back. Try any of the activities to improve.
Overall, the games are just the jukebox thing was honestly not that great. It was just boring. Overall, I probably would say that for the first half of this video is pretty much the typing game. But I would say this right now. I think just for the typing game, I probably give that one a 6 out of 10. The reason why I give it a 6 is because of pretty much how because there was some typing there were some things that were boring in the during the typing rounds. And some of the mini games were pretty boring as well. So that's why I probably give this game a 6 out of 10. Yeah, that's just my ranking of the game pretty much. Um, Now we move on to Yellow Avenger, which yes, I said this is a two-game video review. This is a two-game review, so this video might mostly would take over like at least like 11 minutes of the video. May take like 6 minutes of the video, so that would be 11 minutes. But honestly, so Yellow Adventure is another sort of game that a lot of people don't like, and this is a game that a lot of people don't particularly like. Now I see why, because sometimes I don't actually particularly hate this game, but you're gonna probably have to see what my opinion on the game when I talk about it. So the plot is that when that barnacle boy gets kidnapped by mermaid by the dirty bubble, and pretty much then mermaid and SpongeBob has to goes to the washing machine, gets rescue barnacle boy. Then it turns then SpongeBob finds a pointy thing for that would pretty much literally pop the dirty bubble, but instead he puts it in a washing machine and it turns them into more definitive invisible bubbles. And how it goes is that pretty much is that when the game takes then it pretty much then you have to go on fetch quests, and you're playing as Mermaid. You're playing as SpongeBob as Mermaid Man. So you're probably also wondering, so that's the main story of the game. You have to go around, defeat the bubbles, and save the day. Another thing that a lot of people I don't like, the gameplay is basically a side scroller. This is not the first time SpongeBob had a side scroller, had a side scrolling platformer. Had a game where this is the first time that SpongeBob had a game where where pretty much this is not the first time he had a side scrolling platformer. We had also we had basically those SpongeBob GB. We had Legend of the Lost Spatula. We had Super Sponge on both the PS2 both on PS1 and GameCube versions, because those were two side scrollers anyway. We had that also. We also had that in Revenge of the Flying Dutchman Game Boy Advance version. I might do a video talking about basically about the Game Boy Advance game in each video in each order. But still. Yeah, Yellow Adventure is basically just a side scroller, just basically like those games I just mentioned. And even the DS games was side scrolling too, but honestly I would probably prefer those games over this one, honestly. This is the more this is probably the more just but you probably wonder if the game's good though. No, well, mostly I don't really agree with that statement. Sometimes the gameplay can be very, just bland and mediocre. Another thing I hate about one thing I don't like about this game also as well. Yeah, basically. The music is basically a kind of has some inspired music by Super Sponge, which I don't really get why it feels inspired by it. It just feels so inspired by Super Sponge, honestly. Yeah, but I mean, they even did that also inspired bit in SpongeBob's Planes of Revenge, but we don't talk about that game yet. Yeah. Basically, this game is not you're probably wondering what's the flaws in the game. So, basically, number one, here's my 5 points of pretty much why I think this game has some flaws. Number one is pretty much the is being unfinished on the PSP. Is how the is how much the game has a lot of fest quest. Like, come on, we already had this in Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. Why? Honestly, heck, they brought back even the Revenge of the Flight. They even brought back the whole fetch quest games, tasks in the game, like Revenge of the Flying Dutchman did. Number two, what they did. Number two is pretty much number two is number two is some of the gameplay, other gameplay elements that sprinkle about, like the mini game in the game, like man, that SpongeBob, even the Sponge, honestly, even SpongeBob's, even though this model, I mean, honestly, the mini game was pretty weird. I don't like the mini games in this game though. Number three's biggest problem and number three is the models. Yeah, the models looks like it's from Revenge of the Flight. It looks like a ripoff, a boot, a looks like a Revenge of the Flying Dutchman, but except more bootleggy, or more just more DS, or more just or more retroist. The number four's biggest problem with this game is basically is how sometimes the story kind of the story feels a little bit more boring than compared to the other SpongeBob games. And I think number five's biggest problem with this game is the PSP version. Yeah, the PSP version is pretty much honestly the worst version of SpongeBob. Is honestly the worst the worst version of SpongeBob SquarePants Yellow Adventure. The PSP version really sucks. I hate it. I don't like it. I honestly think the DS version is way better because actually at least it was not broken or something or glitchy in this, because compared to the PSP version it was pretty much downright unplayable, and it feels unfinished and rushed. But yeah, I know this video's been going on for 13 minutes, but I still have a talking point to say. But yeah, those are my flaws in the game though. Now I want to talk about my positives, though. My positives of this game is the voice acting. Yeah, the voice acting is pretty great in this game. I'll admit that. Well, mostly. I know there's no voice acting, but at least I like how it reads the text. But it's just I think it was voice acting. I think, yeah. Number two I like about which I another positive is the DS version. The DS version is probably the best version. Is the more recommended version of this game because it's less glitchy, and I also like it more. Even though it's the same game though, but except with less glitchiness. Yeah. And I think number three, I think I love about this game is the soundtrack. Yeah, the soundtrack in this game is amazing. I love the soundtrack in this game. This feels just right. It feels just as good as the music sounds really good. Even though some of the, like I said with my problems thing, sure, the music does feel like Super Sponge, but I think my favorite tracks of the game is there's five different tracks that I like in this game, and that's pretty much how I describe. Well, the rest are just Super Sponge. How I describe it as inspired. Yeah. Yeah. So you're probably wondering what's my score? What's my if this game is worth it? It's always Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. What about the typing game? The typing SpongeBob game. If you're a fan of SpongeBob, I would recommend at least that game compared to this one. Cause honestly, I know this sounds like a very ridiculous thing, but I think Yellow Avenger is the most mediocre SpongeBob game in the franchise. I think it's the most blandest SpongeBob game, the most bland and slog to get through SpongeBob game of the franchise. Yeah, pretty much. Probably, or it could be, or actually, it could be. Actually, this is the second probably. This is the second because the classic Triton is pretty much more. Super Sponge was more of that, no, Classic Triton PC game was the most mediocre game because I found it to be more mediocre than this one. This is just probably my second. Another thing I don't know, like, yeah. So basically, I would say that, but there is some charm to this, at least to typing and, Yellow Adventure that I do recommend at least. But otherwise, these games could at least just, like, just pass, I don't really like them that much as the other SpongeBob games. Sure, I'll admit that also. Even Atlantis Scorpiantis was not really a good game because of that. Which, and also even Classic Triton as well, and Legend of the Lost Spatula. These five SpongeBob games are obviously the most mediocre. Yeah, that's all. I just overall just like think this game is pretty yeah. So I give this game. I give Yellow Adventure a. I. He's probably he's probably right next to that door. Come on, he's probably in Fiona's room. He could be in Fiona's room. Overall, I give this game a 7 out of 10. No, sorry. I give typing a 6 out of 10, and I give this game. I give Yellow Adventure. I mean, yeah. I give Yellow Adventure a 5 out of 10. Yeah, that's my ranking of those two games. Those are my rating of those two games. His next up is the Creature vs. Crab game. His next up is the next video will be reviewing the SpongeBob games. Reviewing SpongeBob, SquarePants, Creature vs. Crab, I would probably review actually 90 Nightmare first, but still a good game. But I just don't think that it would be like very fair to say that. But yeah, see you in my next video. Bye.